The council chamber floated above Varel Prime like a cathedral of light, vast, cold, and silent. Beneath its translucent dome, 800 alien delegates shimmered in their bioforms, each radiating color and heat signatures like living stars. At the center, on a raised dais of crystal, Chancellor XY Rotha's faceted body refracted the light into 1,000 tiny rainbows. His voice, when it came, was flawless and without emotion. The vote stands unanimous. The species known as humanity is hereby exiled beyond the galactic frontier. No trade, no contact, no aid. The words hung in the air like a verdict carved into time itself. Ambassador Riencourt of Earth did not rise. He simply leaned back in his seat, a dark silhouette among the luminous assembly. The flickering alien lights reflected in his eyes, giving him a strange, feral glow. He said nothing until the murmurs settled. Unanimous? He asked, his tone mild. Unanimous, XY Roth confirmed. Humanity has proven incompatible with Concord law and stability. You mean we don't obey? Kor said softly. A ripple of discomfort moved through the delegates. The human voice, sharp, clipped, unapologetic, cut through the ambient hum like a knife. XY Roth regarded him in crystalline silence. You were warned after the siege of Lorinth, the Chancellor replied. Your commanders obliterated a member species fleet. You call it victory. We call it barbarism. And the lives we saved? Kor's voice was steady. The colonists your fleets abandoned when procedure failed? Collateral, XY Roth said, without irony. Kor stood. His reflection split across the crystalline floor, one man multiplied by 1,000 fractured shards of light. Then I'll save you the trouble of sending your enforcers, he said. You think exile is punishment. To us, it's opportunity. He turned and walked out, the echo of his boots the only sound in the chamber. The vote was done. The galaxy's oldest alliance had just exiled its youngest, wildest member. On the dark side of Earth's moon, Captain Arya Vale stood at the viewport of Lunar Command, watching the orbit filled with motion, thousands of ships, each alive with blue ion trails. Cargo haulers, colony vessels, war frigates, research arcs. Humanity's entire soul packed into steel and drive cores. Fleet formation holding, reported Commander Imani Drex from the console. Project Exodus entering final phase. Arya nodded, her face expressionless. She had known this day would come long before the vote was cast. The Council's warnings were merely formalities. Their fear of humanity had been fermenting for decades. Begin arc sequence, Arya said. Lights across the viewport flared as the great arcs powered their reactors. The UNS Arc Horizon, her ship, sat at the formation's center, the largest of them all. It carried 20,000 lives, cryobays full of engineers, scientists, and dreamers. They're calling it Exile, Drex said, scanning telemetry. Let them, Arya replied. We've outgrown their leash. She turned from the viewport, coat swaying around her knees, and walked across the command deck. The hum of engines vibrated beneath her boots. A hollow projection of the fleet hovered before her, hundreds of blue dots moving as one. Estimated survival probability for the jump? She asked. 43%, replied Mary's, the ship's AI, her voice calm and toneless. That's low, Drex muttered. That's life, Arya said. She placed a gloved hand on the console, feeling the subtle pulse of the ship's living metal. This wasn't a retreat. It was creation. Humanity's oldest instinct, to run not from fear, but toward the unknown. On Varel Prime, Chancellor XY Roth watched the human ambassador's ship depart orbit. They will not wait for confirmation, one of his aides warned. They never do, XY Roth said. His crystalline core dimmed slightly, the alien equivalent of a sigh. Track them. All of them. His aide hesitated. If they enter the silent expanse, then they will die, XY Roth finished. Or something worse will be born. He looked out over the planetary horizon. He had spent 2 centuries bringing order to chaos, peace to endless war. And now, a single species, short-lived, Emotional, volatile, threatened to unravel it. The fleet hung in lunar shadow like a constellation reborn. Each ship bore the mark of a world now left behind, flags of nations that no longer mattered. Arya opened the secure channel connecting all captains. "This is Captain Arya Vale of the Ark Horizon. The vote has passed. The Concord exiles us. Effective immediately, we are no longer citizens of the known galaxy." A pause. Thousands listened in silence. "They think they're sending us away. They don't understand we were already leaving. We'll carve our own maps. Build our own laws. And when they look to the stars, they'll remember, we were the first to walk beyond them." A murmur of approval rolled across the commnet. Some wept quietly. Others saluted the unseen horizon. Humanity, for all its chaos and conflict, was united, not by home, but by defiance. In the command deck's half-light, Drex turned from her station. "Signal from the Concord flagship. They're requesting communication." Arya raised an eyebrow. "Put it through." Exwyrotha's image materialized, towering, crystalline, alien beyond human comprehension. His voice echoed through the deck, smooth and resonant. "Captain Vale, I urge restraint. You are in violation of the Exile Accord. Your departure without supervision will be interpreted as independence?" Arya interrupted. "Defiance," he corrected. "Same thing." His facets flickered, a faint sign of irritation. "If you proceed, the Concord will consider your fleet hostile. There will be consequences." Arya smiled faintly. "There already are." She cut the transmission. "Prepare the jump drive," she ordered. "Destination, Silent Expanse. Coordinates Alpha 0 through Delta 9. Drex hesitated. "That region's unmapped. The AI predicts gravitational anomalies, dead zones, stellar drift." "Perfect," Arya said. "Nobody will follow." Engines charged. Reactors hummed like the heartbeats of gods. Across the fleet, lights brightened one by one, synchronized in luminous choreography. The moon's surface shimmered silver beneath the reflected glow. Inside the bridge, Arya stood before the viewport as the stars elongated into ribbons. "Initiate Exodus," she whispered. Space tore open. One by one, humanity's ships leapt into the abyss, each a spark vanishing into infinity. From Varel Prime, distant observation satellites recorded the exodus. 1,000,000,000,000 citizens of the Concord watched as an entire species disappeared into the void. Hours later, the council chamber was silent again. Exwyrah stood alone beneath the starlight. One of his advisors approached, voice trembling. "They're gone, Chancellor. Entire fleet beyond range. No trace." Exwyrotha's crystalline fingers traced the holographic path, a curve of light ending in nothing. He had seen many species rise and fall, but none quite like this one. "They will die out there," the aide whispered. "Perhaps," Exwyrah said, his voice distant. "Or perhaps they will teach the void how to live." He turned away, light refracting through him in a cascade of fading color. Far beyond the rim, unseen by any alien eye, the arc horizon drifted between newborn stars and dark matter storms. Arya Vale watched the sensor displays flicker with interference, then settle into clarity. "We made it," Drex breathed. The stars in the silent expanse were wrong. Some pulsed backward, their light bending inward instead of out. Others flickered like dying signals, half visible through dust veils of ionized dark matter. The fleet drifted at the edge of comprehension, a migration of steel and stubbornness surrounded by quiet that seemed alive. Captain Arya Vale stood on the bridge of the arc horizon, eyes fixed on the ghostly nebula ahead. It shimmered in cold hues of violet and black, a luminous wound in space. "Status?" she asked. Commander Drex's voice came steady, though fatigue hollowed her tone. 72 ships accounted for. We've lost 5 transmissions since the last jump. Either interference, or something worse." The silence that followed was heavier than alarm. "Navigation AI still mapping gravitational anchors," Miris added, its voice soft but clipped. "Spatial drift detected in the last sector." Coordinates fluctuate at a rate exceeding Concorde physics models. Meaning? Arya pressed. Meaning, the AI said. We are somewhere the galaxy never expected to exist. That line caught even Drex off guard. She looked to Arya, searching for reassurance. But the captain didn't flinch. The unknown had always been humanity's favorite companion. We keep moving, Arya said. Plot a course deeper in. If the void wants to scare us, let it try. 3 days passed in relative stillness. The horizon's lights dimmed to conserve energy. Hallways echoed with soft human sounds, laughter, whispers, the dull thud of tools against bulkheads. The fleet had become a floating city of wanderers. In the observation bay, Arya watched a cluster of engineers debate over navigation readings. Their words blurred in the hum of the ship until one phrase stood out. Ghost signal. She approached. What signal? The lead technician, a young man named Juno, hesitated. A repeating transmission, Captain? Very faint, buried under static. It's human. Arya frowned. From which ship? None of ours, he said. Origins unknown. Signal patterns pre-Concorde, old Terran code, like from the early 2300s. It's repeating a phrase, come home. The room felt colder. Keep it contained, Arya ordered. No wide broadcast. It's either an echo from one of ours lost in a jump corridor, or bait. The Horizon's council chamber filled with tension that smelled of metal and sleeplessness. A dozen ship captains gathered via holofeed, faces ghostly under blue light. Admiral Han leaned forward, his uniform sharp, eyes sharper. We can't stay clustered, he said. We're sitting targets if the Concorde decides to come hunting. They won't follow us this far, Arya countered. Their sensors failed before the rim. That's why they exiled us here. It's chaos to them. Chaos to them doesn't mean safe for us. Han shot back. We're losing ships. We need to spread out, find habitable systems, establish anchor worlds. Commander Drex interjected before Arya could respond. Splitting up cuts our defensive network in half. We've got one working AI fleet link. If we scatter, we lose communication entirely. Better half surviving than all disappearing together. Han snapped. The council fractured into overlapping voices. Some supported Han, pragmatists who saw survival as mathematics. Others clung to Arya's unity, believing division meant death. Arya let the noise build until it exhausted itself. Then she stood, voice low but sharp enough to pierce through the static. We didn't come here to become smaller versions of what we left behind. Every world we colonized under the Concorde started as a fleet like this one, scattered, afraid, alone. We stay together. We survive together. Her words stilled the argument, but the discontent didn't vanish. It merely quieted, a storm waiting behind polite silence. Later, in the dim corridors of the Horizon, Arya met Dr. Lyra Sen, the biotechnologist overseeing the Genesis division, the team responsible for terraforming potential worlds. Lyra walked beside her, holding a holopad alive with swirling molecular data. We've found fragments of organic residue in the last debris field, Lyra said. Not natural, structured protein chains. Possibly life signatures. Alien? Arya asked. Maybe. Or something older. They stopped at the viewport. Outside, the nebula pulsed faintly, like a living organ. You ever wonder, Lyra said, voice almost a whisper, what the universe is hiding here? What if the Concorde never mapped this region because someone told them not to? Then we'll find out why, Arya said. And if something's out there, we'll learn how to live beside it. On the UNS Resolute, far behind the fleet's formation, the mutiny began. The Continuity Initiative, a group of officers who believed in reconciliation with the Concorde, sent encrypted bursts back toward known space. They transmitted data about the fleet's trajectory, claiming it was for negotiation purposes. But Miris caught the signal. Within minutes, Arya received the alert. Her stomach tightened. Betrayal wasn't unexpected, but its timing was lethal. She opened a private line to the Resolute. Commander Cray, she said evenly. You're transmitting coordinates outside approved channels. We're trying to save us, came the reply. The Concord doesn't want extinction. They'll take us back if we. They voted exile, Arya interrupted. That was their piece. You can't lead us into the dark forever. Kray's voice cracked. You're condemning our children. Silence. You just condemned the fleet, Arya said quietly. End transmission. She turned to Drex. How close are they to finishing the data burst? Half complete, Drex replied. Arya closed her eyes for a moment, then gave the order. Target the Resolute. Fire when ready. The bridge fell silent. Drex hesitated, then nodded to the gunnery AI. Outside the viewport, a beam of coherent light lanced across the void, striking the Resolute's hull. For a heartbeat it glowed, then vanished in a cloud of incandescent debris. No one spoke. The fleet continued on, slower, heavier. Hours later, Arya stood alone in her quarters, the silence of command pressing close. Her reflection in the viewport seemed like a stranger's, hollow-eyed, lit by distant starlight. Mary spoke softly. You saved thousands, Captain. And killed hundreds, she murmured. Both are true. Do you ever wish we'd stayed? If humanity had stayed, the AI said, you would not exist to ask that question. Arya smiled faintly. You're learning philosophy. I learned from humans, Mary's replied. Chaos is an efficient teacher. Meanwhile, beyond the fleet's reach, the Concorde's containment force entered the rim. Their vessels shuddered as navigation failed. Exyle watched the interference spread across the holomap, the clean lines of order dissolving into chaos. They're deep in the expanse, his aide reported. Tracking them further risks destabilization. Proceed, Exyle said. If they reach the outer void, they'll vanish beyond our influence. He gazed into the hollow projection of the human fleet. They believe exile made them free. They don't understand freedom breeds contagion. Days later, aboard the Horizon, Arya recorded her log. The stars shifted. Not slowly, not gradually, but in one impossible, synchronized blink. Every telescope, every orbital relay, every quantum feed across the Milky Way registered the same anomaly. Sol, Earth's sun, was gone. No flare. No implosion. No trace. Just absence, pure, mathematical emptiness where a system should have been. Commander Aidan Holt stood on the observation deck of the Dauntless, staring at the blank space where humanity's birthplace had existed mere hours ago. The ship's reinforced glass showed nothing but black. Not the gentle void of space, but an eerie blankness, like a hole torn in reality itself. Confirmed? He asked quietly. Dr. Vance, hunched over a glowing console, didn't look up. Cross-referenced by 27 satellites and independent ships. The Sol system has evacuated itself. Aidan turned, confusion and a bitter pride intertwining. Evacuated itself? You mean us? Vance finally met his gaze. Every beacon, every planet, every trace of human origin mass. Gone. They moved somewhere. Somehow. Behind them, the column's officer trembled. Sir, the Galactic Council's in panic. They're calling it the Silent Exodus. They're demanding contact. Let them demand, Aidan muttered. His eyes returned to the empty coordinates. They voted to exile us. We just followed orders. 2 weeks earlier, that vote had been cast, 4,812 to 97 in favor of humanity's expulsion from the galactic network. The reasons were layered in political jargon. Instability, cultural aggression, biological unpredictability. But the truth was simpler: fear. The Council feared what humanity could do. What they might become. Aidan remembered the transmission, the smug alien delegates, the righteous speeches. He remembered the silence that followed in the human fleet. And the quiet determination that replaced it. They hadn't begged for reconsideration. They'd smiled, saluted, and turned off the channel. Now, the galaxy realized what that silence had meant. Aidan stood before the Council once again, this time as a holographic projection in their chamber. Thousands of species watched, their many eyes, scales, and feathers glinting in spectral light. His form shimmered, a ghost addressing gods who suddenly seemed small. Counselor Zelvar, the serpentine chair of the assembly, hissed. Commander Holt, we demand to know the nature of your people's disappearance. Your son is missing. That is a galactic violation. Aiden's expression remained unreadable. Violation? You exiled us. We complied. You destabilized the fabric of spatial coordinates. Another counselor shrieked. Entire trade lanes are disrupted. We can't locate your colonies or fleets. Aiden tilted his head slightly. We withdrew. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, panic disguised as outrage. Zelvar slammed a taloned hand on his dais. Withdrawn? You severed half our network. Correction, Aiden replied evenly. We severed ourselves from you. We took our science, our AI cores, our warp drives, and our soldiers. We no longer owe this council a single atom of loyalty. His words echoed through the vast chamber. Even through the holographic distortion, his voice carried an unmistakable finality. Counselor Zelvar's tone turned venomous. You will return. The Galactic Order demands compliance. Order? Aiden laughed softly. You feared us because you saw what we could become. You exiled us to protect your power. So now you get what you wanted, a galaxy without humans. He leaned forward slightly, the projection flickering like a heartbeat. Just remember, you voted for this. The feed cut. Hours later, the Galactic Council declared a state of emergency. Fleets scrambled to map the void left behind. Intelligence agencies reported human beacons reappearing at the edges of known space, beyond the galactic rim, flashes of light, gravitational distortions, structures the size of moons. Whispers spread, the humans hadn't vanished. They'd moved on. On the Dauntless, Aiden walked the command corridor, the ship humming like a restrained predator. Every display showed human fleets mobilizing, thousands of vessels no longer bearing planetary insignia. They now flew a single new emblem, a black circle enclosing a burning star. Humanity's rebirth sigil. Captain Mira Zhao joined him at the viewport. Transmission from the Exodus fleet, sir. They're ready. Are we sure about this? Aiden asked quietly. Zhao's eyes shone. They wanted us gone. We're just taking the next step. He nodded. Initiate the fold. The command pulsed through the ship, through the fleet, through every fragment of humanity scattered across the stars. Energy swelled as quantum drives aligned, pulling on the fabric of existence itself. The ships shimmered like mirages, and then reality broke. Space folded in silence. The human fleet disappeared. When the Council sent probes after them, none returned. The space beyond the galactic rim had become unreachable, saturated with interference that scrambled sensors and warped gravity. Time itself flickered near the boundary. Rumors turned to legends. Traders claimed to hear human voices in their comms, ghost transmissions whispering across hyperspace. Others swore they saw black ships glide past the edges of dying suns, harvesting energy from supernovae. Dr. Vance, stationed on an isolated relay near Council space, compiled the data quietly. Every strange pulse, every missing probe, it all pointed to one truth. Humanity wasn't lost. They were building something. Aiden stood on the command bridge of humanity's new home, a titanic ringworld orbiting an artificial star. Around him stretched the glittering expanse of a new system, untouched by alien hands. Colonies glittered like constellations on the interior of the ring. AI drones weaved lattices of atmosphere. Vast factories carved from asteroids produced new ships every hour. It wasn't a planet. It was an empire engine. He watched as Mira approached, datapad in hand. The Assembly wants a statement for the archives, she said. Something for the next generation. He looked up at the blazing artificial sun. Tell them this, we didn't run. We simply stopped asking for permission. Mira smiled. And when they come looking for us, Aiden's gaze hardened. Then they'll find out what Exile taught us. He turned toward the endless horizon of steel and light. They voted us out of their galaxy. We built our own.